So hello, everybody. Welcome to this session. It's 1:45, so we're going to go ahead and stay on schedule and keep on moving forward. I want to introduce to you Nicole Williams and John Gillham from University of Findlay. They will be taking you through their story, their journey of starting a process at their school at University of Findlay. So Nicole, John, welcome and take it away.
All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for everyone who's joined the session here. Nicole and I are going to tag team a little bit, so I'm going to start off, and she's going to pick up at a certain point and run with it. But as I mentioned earlier, we would encourage your questions, so please feel free to fire away in the chat box. So our presentation is titled, Where Do We Start? How to Begin the QM Internal Course Review Process. Okay, so we have several purposes for this presentation. We want to describe obviously how we did that internal process. We want to talk about some of the strengths and some of the challenges that are involved in that process and how we apply the Quality Matters internal review process to our institution, and therefore hopefully you can find a way to apply it to your institution as well. We're looking at how we began this process through the Quality Matters APP QMR course, how we worked through the IYOC course, and how we developed a network of reviewers. And, you know, it's quite a big process. Those of you who've been through it, you understand that. So we hope to share kind of our story and what worked well and what were some of the challenges. There was an initiative that we took really to, it all kind of started with our doctoral program, and I should give a little bit of background on that. So we have a doctorate of education program at the University of Findlay. It is entirely online. And we were looking at ways we can improve our program and ways that we could upgrade what we do. And talking with Nicole and some others, we thought, you know, let's really make sure that we have a high quality online program. Let's look at some research-based things and how can we make sure that our program is really solid? Because I'm sure you all know, you've seen many different levels of online courses, and some can be very strong and some can be very weak. And we wanted to make sure that all our courses were really strong. So we were somewhat familiar with QM. I'm somewhat familiar. Nicole was very familiar at that point. And so that was the online certification program we decided to go with because we wanted to use those research-based practices. So some of our objectives here, we wanted to train the faculty and staff how to use those. We wanted to provide some resources and guidance as they went through the process. And eventually we wanted to achieve internal course review certification through M. Now our goal was to do that in all the core and research courses in the Doctorate of Education program. That's 14 courses. Now we were really gung-ho and perhaps a little naive when we started. We thought we could do that in 1 year. We did not do that. However, we are now about 3 years in and we are right around 12 courses that have passed with 2 or 3 to go. So the University of Findlay, who are we? We are located here in Ohio. We're a private residential liberal arts institution. We're founded in 1882. We have 80 bachelor's degrees, 11 master's degrees, and 4 doctoral degrees, including the Doctorate of Education. The Doctorate of Education program started in 2013. I came on board in 2015. You know, I think we were off to a very good start. You know, I had never taught online, honestly, until I got to the University of Findlay. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it. And you know what? I absolutely love doing it. And I'm very excited about working online. I'd be happy to do that the rest of my career. And I'm really thankful to some of my colleagues, such as Nicole, and resources that Quality Matters has to offer. Anyways, we have about 2,500 undergraduates and roughly 1,200 graduate students. So Quality Matters is an organization you obviously all know well, and I was looking through this earlier today, and I really love the idea that this is all about quality assurance in our programs and how we can work together to achieve that. When students come to me and they say, prospective students, you know, why should I come to your program? What's different about your program than any other program? There's several things I can speak to. But one of the things I always bring up is quality matters. And I talk about quality matters and what quality matters does. And I make the point that if you see a course that is quality matters certified, that's your guarantee of a high quality online experience. And that's really what we were looking for our students. We wanted to know that the courses we offered were of high quality and they got that high quality online experience. So, there's a lot of standards that QM has. We want to recognize expertise and foster that culture of continuous improvement. That's one thing that we think is very important in our program, is that we're always looking to improve ourselves. Okay, once again, you probably know many of these things. Quality Matters is over 1,100 organizations from K-12 to higher ed and other areas. QM is now in various nations all over the globe and has more than 60,000 members, which I think is a pretty impressive number. All right, so I'll tell you a little bit about myself and the role I played in here, and then Nicole will jump in and she can kind of run with it from there. So as I mentioned, I've been at the University of Findlay about 5 years. I was relatively new, brand new really, to online teaching. I currently serve as associate professor and chair of the Doctorate of Education program. I've really loved what I've learned from QM. I have become a master reviewer. I've done about 5, I think it's 7 or 8 now, external course reviews. But I also have done most of the internal course reviews. So I'm that person I'm not the only one, but I do most of that internal screening where I go through our courses and point out some things that are working or are not working according to the QM standards.
And I'm Nicole Williams. I'm an associate professor in the College of Education at the University of Findlay. I have been with Quality Matters now since 2011. When I first got to the University of Findlay, my first semester, I had taught online before I came to Findlay. I'd been an adjunct for Ohio State, Wright State, and Muskingum. And so I had kind of a very interesting look at how multiple universities in the state of Ohio addressed online learning. And then I started teaching online at Findlay when I got here. And my first semester, my dean was like, hey, there's this QM conference in Baltimore, and anybody want to go? And I was like, sure, why not? And free conference, free trip. And so I went, and the first day I attended the APP QMR training, because that's kind of like something you can do as part of the conference, if any of you are familiar with that. And I absolutely loved it. It was amazing. I mean, from teaching in 4 universities in a very short period of time online, it was like, wow, wait a second, there are some standards that we all could be looking at to address how we design our courses. There are research-based best practices for how we should be doing this, regardless of where we teach. So I was very excited. I actually came back from the conference and I was like, Julie, can I have some money to become a peer reviewer? And thankfully, she supported me in that, and she continued to support me in that because I just kept going. I did the peer reviewer as soon as I got back from my first QM conference. And then again, because I love the peer reviewer experience, I ended up, I continued on to the master reviewer, which has also been a phenomenal experience. Actually, I think that number now is a little, I think I'm at 30 plus course reviews that I've done through the US and then in Ohio as part of the barter system, which, by the way, free ad here, I've got 2 reviews, our last 2 reviews that need reviewers. So shout out in the group chat there if anybody would like to serve to be a reviewer, because it's been a little bit challenging in the last couple of months to find reviewers. And I totally understand, we're all in a kind of a crazy time, and QM reviews can kind of be on the back burner. So if that's something that you would like to do, please let me know if you'd like to serve as a master reviewer or peer reviewer. And then once, as part of this initiative, and I'll talk a little bit about this in a little bit, I became a QM facilitator, the face-to-face facilitator initially for the APP QMR workshop, as well as the IYOC facilitator, for the workshop. And then I did the online one as well. And I'm the QMC for a university. So you can see I clearly love QM and the work that we do. And I believe it does make a difference for our students. And very excited to be just sharing our experiences. I did want to say, I'm kind of curious, just in the chat, if you would not mind, could you just jot down where your university is in terms of the internal reviews, just if you've done internal reviews at your university or if you've not, that'll just kind of help me gear this presentation more to who I have. So if you would not, yeah, that's great. It's like Christina just put not, that's perfect. We have not done any, okay, good. So we have a few, not quite there, not quite there. Okay, this is awesome. All right. Yeah, starting to build, not there yet. Okay, that helps me know when I'm going through this, like the teacher in me, it helps me know how I should gear my presentation. So what I would like to do, since so many of you are at the not there yet, haven't even done this yet, trying it out, as I'm going through these slides, I'm just going to go through them a little bit slower than I was initially envisioning. But please, if you see something in a slide or you hear me say something and you're like, wait a second, and you're trying to translate this into how you would do this at your university, just stop me, and you can raise your hand if you want to in the participant panel, or you can just type in the chat. I have it open right now, and I'll try to watch that as we go. So if you have those questions, since you are all new, if I kind of zoom past something that you'd like to learn more about, we'd be happy to share. And then also any of the materials that, we kind of touch on or you see on the screen, I would be happy to send you. I think one of the ways that we can help each other in Ohio kind of build the internal structure, which then builds obviously the external structure, is sharing our resources. And that's what's so awesome about the Ohio Consortium. Oh, I should add, for those of you who don't know, I'm also on the board for the Ohio Consortium. I am the secretary. So it's great organization. All right, so hopefully you're all familiar with the Quality Matter Standards and the rubric, specifically the new rubric, which we acknowledge is a little more challenging. And I'll talk about that in a minute. We had a rubric switch in the middle of our course reviews for external. We also had an LMS switch, which I think some of you could probably relate to too. So we encountered some things that we were not expecting in this initiative. Which is okay. It just delayed us a little bit, and we're okay with that. We have to be, especially right now, you have to be okay with that. So we used the standards, and these were the standards we decided, and we wanted to go with QM. And I will say from the very beginning though, one thing you will have to do at your universities to get this started, and I did this actually even before Dr. Gillham got there to start heading up the EDD program, I sat down with a huge group of stakeholders at our university. And I think I had if you're curious who you might need, I had basically all the ATS people there, the ITS I invited the Center for Teaching Excellence, and their director and their folks. I invited our chief operating officer who kind of oversees the online learning. I tried to invite everyone to the table, and actually everyone did come to the table, which is exciting when everybody does come to it. And I said, look, there's this thing called Quality Matters. And so I had to start from scratch, and you might have to start from scratch too, especially if your university's new to this. I came in with them with handouts of, how the one pager on the QM website, you can get just the one pager, not the whole rubric of all the standards. I just came down with like kind of we sat at the table. I explained what QM was. I explained, this previous slide, as well as I just kind of handed them, kind of for a lot of them, the first time, the QM standards, just the one pager. And I said, what do you think? We've got a lot of courses online. And I kind of offered up the EDD program. Hey, Chuck. I kind of offered up the EDD program as a great place to start because we were fully online. We were new. We had somebody new coming in. And it was just a great opportunity to, just start something new, to try this out that would work for our students and make our online program even stronger. And as John just mentioned, it would be something that we could talk to the students about when we're trying to get them into our program. Hey, we're QM, we have QM certified courses, and explaining to them how rigorous it is. Although I will say to you, those of you who are in education programs, you will notice that some of your K-12 educator folks do know what QM is, because there is a QM rubric and standards and course review process for K-12 too. So some of our people in the EDD program are actually already familiar with QM. So our first objective in this whole initiative, again, how do we even get faculty buy-in? And I've already been in a couple presentations this morning, like Vince's, where you talk about how important this buy-in is, and that you got to get the faculty going. And how do you even start, right? When they don't even know what QM is. And then how do you get them to connect that and then actually take it and do something with those research-based best practices that they just learned about? So for us, the APP QMR course was I know that QM calls it the flagship. It became the flagship for Findlay too. And so thankfully, the Center for Teaching Excellence at our university, I cannot give enough props to. They helped me, and any of you who are running this show, you need as much help as you can. Make friends with everyone. But the CTE for me really helped because I got the facilitator. I got the ability to facilitate this through QM. I went through the coursework and everything so I could become a facilitator. And by the way, why did I do that? It really helps with the cost. So if you're not familiar with the cost of how much this could be for your faculty to go through online, trust me, if somebody at your university facilitates this for your faculty, it's way cheaper. The second thing we found out really fast was our faculty wanted someone up there speaking to how to teach online from their own university. And I cannot stress that piece enough, that if you're just starting out, I would encourage you to use the faculty that you have available as much as possible, because they really do want to hear from one of their own. That's a comment that they will leave on my evaluations for APPQMR. It was nice to see Nicole up there. And it was funny too, because a lot of them I didn't even know. I'm like, we have this huge equestrian program. I'm like, I don't know anybody over there, okay? And I was faculty senate chair or secretary. I still didn't know like half. It's amazing. You start to meet all these people at your university, these faculty, through these APPQMR courses. So it was just a really great experience. And what happened was, through this course, they became familiar with QM. They bought into it. And it was fascinating because it was like we had such a group of people. You had people who had taught online, some people who taught fully online, partially online, and never taught online before. And that'll happen when you do the APPQMRs, and that's totally fine. What was really cool was even the people who were sitting there saying, I only teach face-to-face, like, oh my gosh, I could do some of this in what was then Blackboard, now Canvas. I could do this in my courses for face-to-face. Like some of this stuff, whoa, course objectives that align with module objective. Wait a second. I could do this in my face-to-face course. Yes, you can. And I will say, if you've never been in one of those APPQMR courses, objectives, believe it or not, become a very long part of the conversation. We take for granted, especially those of us who are in education, that faculty were somewhere along the line taught how to write objectives, course objectives, or module objectives. And sometimes that's where the majority of my questions come from on the APPQMR. It's kind of interesting. And I try to take the time and really work through that, because those standard 2.1 and 2.2, you can't start a course review without those two standards being met. And if you're not familiar with that, that's 2.1 is, do you have measurable course objectives? And 2.2, do you have measurable module objectives that align with those course objectives? So I do feel like in the APP QMR, that's a place where it's okay. We can stop and we can talk about objectives because they might never talk about them again in another place like this. So they walk away from the APP QMR it's amazing. They're very excited about QM. We talk about just take one thing back and start changing slowly. That's another thing that you can share with your faculty when they take the APP QMR. When you're just getting started at your university, some of them will get overwhelmed by all the standards they get because they get the full workbook in APP QMR. Just say, start with 2.1 and 2.2. Then start on some of the alignment standards and the other, essential 3-point standards. Really help scaffold them through that so that they just make small, manageable changes throughout. So again, that buy-in continues. So what happened with us was very exciting. Now keep in mind, we have a small university. So when you're seeing the number 146 for us, that's fabulous. It's the word spread. And we had to offer more APP QMR workshops. And they were very, very excited. And we ended up, and this number is probably higher now, but we had 146 faculty and staff, because I opened the APP QMR workshops to not just faculty, but also adjuncts who aren't on our campus. I feel like that's important that they become involved. So we send this out to everyone, as well as staff. It's important that if you have like ATS, ITS folks at your university, they're going to be helped doing some of the supporting. They should have a basic understanding of QM. And our ATS, ITS folks, they were so supportive. They came and sat all through APP QMR, knowing they'd probably not necessarily build an online course or design one, right? But they could still use those best practices in the training that they do, or the videos that they do, or their modules that they were using. So they were extremely supportive, and they're just great. So after APP QMR, we had all of a sudden some interest in, can I sit down with you, Nicole, and can I work with you on designing one of my courses? Except we had a bunch of people who decided to do that, which again is exciting. However, a little bit challenging for one person. So what happened was I heard about the IYOC, which is, if you're not familiar with that, the Improving Your Online Course Workshop. So of course I went and got another training done and so that I could facilitate this face-to-face. And it was awesome. So we've had 27 of those 146 go through IYOC too. And another great experience, IYOC is a little bit different than APP QMR because they can actually bring a course in and they work on that course. They choose the standards and we work on that course and developing the design of that course right in the workshop. And it's great. And by the way, on that workshop note, if you can get someone to sponsor food like lunch, I highly recommend that because they will come even more if you give them free lunch. It's amazing. So I partnered with the Center for Teaching Excellence, and they did provide those lunch. And then a couple of different people also offered to buy those lunches at different times too. Again, to get the faculty on board. And as a result of those 2 workshops, we have had 15 faculty and staff continue on to take the higher education peer reviewer course, which is so exciting because if you're going to start building internal reviews, guess what? You need internal reviewers. You don't get those through another university. You have to have them your own university. One question I usually get right away, and I'm surprised it's not in here yet. So do you pay your internal reviewers? Or how do you compensate your internal reviewers? We don't. It is their desire to they are invested in QM. They want to learn more about QM. They want to become better with their own courses, and they want to help the institution. Now, I will say that most of them are faculty members. So this QM reviews do count towards, and this is something you can stress at your university, it does count towards their tenure and promotion requirements. So I do have quite a few of higher ed peer reviewers who have used this in their dossiers, and they've asked us, John and I, for letters of recommendation for their dossiers based on the work that they've done in the doc program for Quality Matters. So that's you can't put money on that per se, but it does count as, for us anyway, service to the institution and high quality professional development is what they call it for us, the courses that you have to take to become a peer reviewer or a master reviewer. Are there any questions so far?
Can I jump in for a sec, Nicole? I wanted to emphasize something you said. So Nicole did really just a fabulous job with this APP QMR course, and it did many things for us. It gave us connections across the university. Nicole is absolutely right. We really introduced this concept of alignment to, people who maybe are outside of the education field. But it also gave us a common language for what good quality online instruction is, and that common understanding. Because a lot of people, like me not long ago, we're coming into this cold. We don't know what online is. Some people think online is, posting homework assignments that people download and upload. So this whole process was really instructive to getting everyone on that same page. And I think that's why you see so many people, in part why so many peer reviewers, is because they started to own it. They go, okay, now I see what high quality online instruction is, and I want to do that. I want to be that. I want to improve my courses.
So just out of curiosity, if you wouldn't mind, I know a lot of you said you haven't started the internal review process. Could you just real quick in the chat box, let me know if you've done APPQMR or IYOC on your campuses. You've facilitated those. So you've got the ball moving, I guess, is what I'm trying to see here. No, only APPQMR. Oh, several APPQ. Okay, no. Oh, good. So we have one this week. Yay. So minimal interest. Interesting. Not on campus. In a class. One. Okay. So we have a different, okay, 7th class. So we've got a variety of responses in there. So it sounds like some of you actually have the foundation started for the internal course review, because you do have the APPQMR started, and perhaps even the IYOC. Now, I truthfully think you could probably, those of you who are saying we have a APPQMR, you could continue on and begin to start that review, the internal review course process without having the IYOC. I think the IYOC does, though, provide you kind of like with another important step. I will say that you do have to build a pool of peer reviewers. Those pool of peer reviewers for most of you will probably come from those who did the APPQMR. It is something that I stress when I do the facilitation of the APPQMR workshop, and I'll even email people later. I'll be like, hey, you said you might be interested in this. Want to talk? And I also, this might be something you consider to get peer reviewers. I try to find ways to pay for that for them. So not with my money, but with other people's money. So for example, our Ohio consortium does at times offer, right, that they will train or they will do research for certain things. You know that each university in Ohio has the $600 professional development fund. So for those of you who are heading up this effort, I would, if I were you, go on the website and see where you are in terms of your funds and spending your funds, and get those funds spent. And you could use some of those funds to train peer reviewers and master reviewers if you want. And then also, I, shook the tree at the top every once in a while. And occasionally I would, try to have a dean help support so that the faculty member wasn't paying for that out of their own pocket. And they really appreciated that. All right, so moving on, our second objective. So we kind of met our first objective in a lot of respects. The second objective is, okay, now they're ready to go. Now they're ready to start the internal review process. How do we get the ball rolling? But most importantly, how do we provide them with the resources and guidance to do this? And so one thing that I would highly encourage all of you to check out on the QM website is this how can a course be prepared for an official review? And just looking at, you know, what are some of the things that you as a university, if you start internal reviews, should also be looking at, right? This is kind of very helpful checklist. If you've never seen this, maybe go through this and self-assess where you are. Another thing I would almost recommend is what we did is we chose one program, our EDD program that was completely online, as a pilot. And we had support for this all the way up to the top. And I think that's very, very important that you have that support and that you use a program as a pilot so that they can see it's working in one program before, you know, it's all over the whole university doing something. Because you will, and I'll talk about a few of these, you'll run into some challenges along the way. And it's easier to deal with some of those challenges if it's only a program as opposed to your entire university, especially some of you are at huge universities. So that was a helpful side. So here's what we did. Here's how we started. If you have any questions, let me know. If you want a copy of anything, let me know. It's it's simple. So what we did for our doc program, which is our pilot, we had to make sure that those courses to get started in the internal review process had been taught a minimum of 2 semesters. Okay, so that, you know, they're taught once, the instructor can make changes based on the feedback from students especially, and it's a little, you know, there's been modifications made at least once so far. The other second requirement for the faculty and the course was that the faculty member had to have successfully completed the APP QMR workshop. And you know what, our deans at our university were extremely supportive in saying, hey, faculty, you might want to take this course. And then the faculty who spread the good word, faculty took the course. So those were our 2 requirements. You'll notice that the IYOC was not a requirement to do start the internal review process. So how did we start this? Truthfully, our faculty, we had a spreadsheet. I don't know if I have this in here, but I could show you the spreadsheet. It's somewhat complicated, but we had all the courses that John mentioned before. We had all of the core courses in the doc program as well as the research courses, again, all online. And we just started in. And here's another piece of advice, put yourself through first. Okay, so I was like, okay, since this is my idea, I'll go first. And you'll learn something very quickly about the process when you put yourself first. And I did, right from standard 2.1 and 2.3. You know, so anyway, especially in the doc program, you know, course objectives can be a little, how do we say this, frou-frou if you use language from the field. So watching out just for things like that. You never think to look at your own course, right? It was a very good experience. So I did put my own course through first, and then Dr. Gillham put his courses in next. And you can speak to if you learned anything from that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my experience, I think, was replicated throughout the faculty because I knew something about QM. I'd been to the APP QMR class, the IYOC, and I thought, okay, you know, my course is really good. It's ready to go. And, you know, you have somebody else look at that course internally and they say, well, you know, you really haven't done this. And I'm not really sure what you're doing about that. And, you know, it was kind of a humbling process. You know, I certainly learned a lot, but yeah, I went in pretty confident and realized, boy, I really need to improve some things here. And most of our faculty had that same kind of experience. They felt pretty confident. And I said, you know what, then they went through the internal review. We pointed out some things they needed to work on. And, you know, it was a lot of work, but I will give them credit. They rose up, they did it. They did a tremendous job. And I think that bears repeating too. You know, this was really very much a faculty-led effort. And I don't mean to disparage or discourage anyone who is an instructional designer. I think you play an incredibly important role, but I think having faculty kind of on the forefront, being the face, if you will, of this movement, I think was really important. And Nicole spoke to that earlier. And me as the chair of the program and Nicole as the, you know, kind of our QM guru, it was important for us to go first and to share that, like, oh yeah, that was a little rougher than I thought. Boy, I thought I was in good shape, but wow, I really had some humble pie there. So, I think there's all those things are really important to helping the rest of the faculty go through it.
So I should have mentioned too, my actual title through this was not guru. I became a course, so like a course review manager, which is something that you can do at your university to, again, save money on course reviews. You can have one of your QMCs become a course review manager. And again, it's another course that you go through, but it's well worth it, because the cost, again, for each course review, they become subscriber managed reviews. So I have the ability to be the subscriber managed reviewer and manager. And so I facilitate that process as opposed to, the QM actual certified review. So that does help with cost. Thank you. Guru was, yeah, my actual title is course review manager. But anyway, so you can kind of see here, what we did is we took the QM rubric standards, and this is for the internal review process. Okay. The first step of this is we give this right here that you see on the screen to the course representative. And we say, because we follow the external review process as much as possible. And we just say, okay, so, hey, can you review yourself? Let us know where you think you are with these standards. And for the most part, they're pretty honest, and they will say where they think they've got holes or issues or things like that. Other times you have to give feedback. So it goes to the course representative, and it comes back to the internal course review manager, which is, since this is his program, Dr. Gillham. He simply goes through the course, he looks for the standards. He says whether he thinks they're met or not met, and he provides feedback. Now the feedback's, it somewhat mirrors the feedback you would give in an actual course review. And then it's given back to the course representative for modifications. Once the course representative makes the modifications, then the internal course review manager just looks it over and says it's good to go. And then it comes to me for the external course review process. Now, how long are you thinking this takes? It depends, truthfully, on the course representative and the course. So some course representatives will, the courses are we have a real wide variety. We have one who, she is just on it, and you let her know that one of her courses are up and it's good to go, and she's got most of them aligned, and she gives these things back in a timely manner. It's 2 weeks and we're ready to go. Then we've got some other ones that it just takes a little bit longer. And, we have a couple who will take a month or so, and sometimes longer. So you just have to be patient. Remember that they are dealing with other things. And, setting deadlines is really important to help them move along. One thing that we encountered that John talked about is that all of a sudden we were using the 2014 rubric, and then the 2018 rubric came out. So all of a sudden we had to change rubrics. And on top of that, at the same time, we went from Blackboard to Canvas. So we had to stop completely to allow the faculty, and if this happens to you, you just have to run with it, to allow them to put all their courses in Canvas and then teach it, and then teach it again with modifications, and then go. So we had to stop there in the middle, and there was nothing we could do about it.
May I say something about the internal review?
Mm-hmm.
So just to give you an idea, for those of you who haven't gone through this, what this looks like, as I go through the course and I look at the standards, I'm very clear about what they're not doing. So for example, an instructor will say, the objective is reflect on such and such. And I'll be very clear, reflect is not measurable. What do you want them to reflect on? Are you asking them to analyze this? Are you asking them to apply this? So be very clear in how they're not meeting the standard, and I'll try to give them some ways to think about how they could meet that standard. What I don't do, in accordance with Quality Matters principles, is I don't say, go do this now, or you have to do that. This is not prescriptive. There are many ways to meet these standards, and if they want to talk about it, I'll give them some ideas. But that's really up to them as the instructor. We have to respect that. And
there's times where he'll actually meet with them which is a little different than external review process. He will meet with them face to face if there's like something they want to talk through for the internal review. So once it goes out for the official course review, the external review process, we follow QM just like everybody else. So they've gone through their internal course review. Now they're ready for external course review. We use, again, the subscriber managed course reviews because I am a course review manager. We're allowed to do that. I create the 3-person review team, which is why I'm always begging for reviewers. And then I'm the one who kind of make sure that we use the bartering systems because we are in Ohio, thankfully, because there's no way we could have done this without the Ohio Consortium bartering system. We do not have money at our university. I'm sure some of you can relate. We relied completely on the bartering system. We've been able to do this entire program, external reviews, all of them through the bartering system. Thank you, which has been awesome. Yes, we've had to earn some of those points as peer reviewers and master reviewers, but it's been totally worth it. So you do have to make sure you have that the external, you have a subject matter expert and a master reviewer. The master reviewer, once I get it going, basically facilitates everything just like in the external course reviews. And we have the same time limits and the same expectations as the external course review. So for objective 3, we wanted to have all of our core and research courses go through and successfully become QM certified. To date, 10, actually is it 10 or 11 now? I think we're actually
we just had our 11th.
Yeah. So yay. We're almost at the end. We can see the light and it's just awesome. And the faculty, we're so thankful for them. And it's been a really good learning experience. And what's great is they're getting feedback from students and in their course evaluations on how much the course improved. And how easy things were to find and the navigation. Because remember, sometimes in our program, they'll have the faculty member, at one point in the program, and then they'll have them again later in the program. And that's especially true in our research courses because we have like one quantitative researcher who does the quantitative courses and one qualitative. So they can see as our faculty are doing the QM process, they can see the progress in the courses, which is awesome. And then, in terms of our last ones, we're hoping to get those done this summer. So again, we thought we could get them all done within a year. We started in 2017 and we thought we'd be done in 2018. And then a lot of things changed, like the QM rubric and our LMS. So that's okay. It happens. So we're very, very happy that we are where we are. So just a couple things for you to think about if you're going to do this. We, again, did not have the funds to do this. If it were not free, if I were not able to facilitate the APPQNMR and the IYOC free because this is my university, I don't know that we could have done that because of the expense. And the other huge expense is the course reviews. Again, we use the bartering system completely. Our master reviewers and peer reviewers from our university earned those credits. Yes, I earned quite a few of those because you just have to do it to earn them. You also, if you don't already know, you earn credits simply by paying your dues to the consortium. So check into that. And you can check, by the way, you can check where you are with your bartering credits at any time on the website for the Ohio Consortium, if you're wondering how you look at that. So some other challenges, John does not have administrative authority over faculty in any way. Okay, so he cannot, and he doesn't evaluate most of them either. They're evaluated by other people in the department. So, he could not at any point say you are required to do this. We had to have buy-in and they had to all participate. And thankfully they all have, and they've won. I mean, we've got tenured 30 plus years full professors that we had to be like, hey, there's this thing called Quality Matters. And some of them had to make significant changes, but they did it. And they were motivated by their students, which was phenomenal to see that they did this just simply because they wanted to improve things for their students. So that's kind of where we are. That's how we got the ball rolling at our university. And we're only done when we've already had interest from other programs at our university who would like to try the same thing. They're learning from us. They're watching us. They're starting to train their own master reviewers and their own peer reviewers. So it's starting to, we were kind of like the springboard and the learning experience, and now it's starting to take off. So we're very excited and how we can help in the process with sharing our experiences with our colleagues is also kind of cool. So since we're kind of reached the end, do you have any questions? I mean, you could type in the chat, any questions about even like logistics. I'll tell you one thing that was kind of, I did not anticipate was, how do you get external access in Canvas for external reviewers? Guess what? You have to work very closely with whoever your Blackboard or Canvas administrator is, because they have the privileges. So what happens is we create QM course shells of the original course for QM purposes only, because remember, it has to be stripped of everything related to the students, including those discussion boards. So you do need help from those folks. And then what they did for me, they created like these reviewer number 1 account, reviewer number 2 account, and we give the external reviewers one of those accounts that they can use to access the course, and then it's turned off, and that reviewer account is removed from that shell once the review is over. Those are just some of the logistical pieces that you get to it and you're like, oh, how do I add someone outside of my university to this course? So just thinking through some of those. Are there any questions?
You know, if I may, while you're coming up with your questions, I think that last point on the slide there is really important. You're going to have people in your institutions who are really motivated to change and do something new, and you're going to have people who just are not. And I think what really makes a difference, if you can convince them, look, this is in the best interest of the students are going to get a better experience, you know, you're going to give them a better class. That really is the tipping point for a lot of people, that they can see that this really results in better outcomes for students. And, you know, that may have been the reason that kind of pushed them into it a little bit. But a lot of the professors, much like the students that Dr. Williams was talking about, they came back and said, wow, you know, I can really see how my course functions so much better now, and students are responding to it better. And they're taking some of these principles and they're applying it to their courses that are outside of this program. So once you get past that, you know, once you get that motivation in line, a lot of really good things can happen.
So are there any questions or like logistical things? For those of you who haven't yet got started, are there any reasons specifically that you haven't got started, or questions you might have for us on how to get started, especially with the internal review process? Because some of you did say you've done APPQMR, so you're close. You at least probably have buy-in. My problem is I have no buy-in. I recommend food. No, I mean, sometimes what this, okay. Oh, thank you. I think, truthfully, what we had to do to help with the buy-in a little bit in some colleges, because some colleges were better than others, you at times, you might need to seek help from the deans. Sometimes it just helps to have a dean who will send a message, and I know this happened in our college, who just sent a specific message to a specific person, like an adjunct, and just said, hey, this would be a really great experience for you. Why don't you sign up? Those one-on-one personal experiences, if you can make those happen, especially from your dean, they become very effective. It's not that they have to take it, but just somebody saying, hey, this is a really great, really great resource and workshop. Why don't you give it a try? Can't get enough people who want to be peer reviewers. It seems like too much extra work. Yeah. And wait till they get to the master review, of course. Yes. So what we've done, again, I work with them one-on-one personally to try to get support, and that's the financial support to pay for it. And I cannot tell you how many people have thanked me for that and appreciated just that. So like, if you can just work with them one-on-one to get the ball rolling, and then they start it, that really, and the provost is paying for it. That's great. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I just saw that. Lucky you, whichever university you're at, get going now while you got the money, especially in this environment. Wow, that's so awesome. Congratulations down there. If you need any help, let me know. All right, so we have a group on our campus called Champions for 2 years ago. It's made of a faculty member. Oh, that's a really great idea. So that's kind of almost like a train the trainer model, but not really. So where you're spreading the word, again, getting the word out there. Another thing was accreditation. If you can use the accreditation piece, it it speaks volumes. So a lot of our accreditation bodies recognize QM, and including HLC. So if you have those visits coming up, guess what? Or if you are working on even your program accreditation, or your whatever kind of accreditation, most accreditation bodies recognize it. So throw it out there. Say, I've got online courses. I've got an online program. Let's get this going, because our accreditors want us to be speaking to how do we demonstrate quality in our online courses, right?
Another good pathway to that is professional development. People
Mm-hmm.
are looking for professional development. They need it for their dossier. And you say, hey, why don't you come take this course? Come check this out. And so sometimes it's just a simple matter of that. But if you have people on your campus who are positive about it, and they learn about it, they learn about the research, they learn about the better outcomes, soon that happens. And it's, like a little leavening working through the bread, right? I mean, it spreads from one person to the next to the next. And if you can get a core together of people like the technology group that you have there who are really pushing this, you can make a difference. You just need to get to that tipping point.
And sometimes it is slow, and it's okay that you maybe just get that right, very, very slow coming in from the beginning, but that it spreads like wildfire. The other thing, like I mentioned before, is for faculty especially, this can be, we actually, in my dossier, my tenure and promotion letter, they actually recognized, my faculty affairs committee recognized in my letter for tenure and promotion that my work for QM. And so I kind of shared that letter that, hey, look, if you do these QM things, guess what? It's something that they are really paying attention to on faculty affairs. And it was actually in my letter when I got my congratulations, just sharing those, that this is really important. And then service, that service piece. And I think right now in this environment, we have a really big advantage. There's not many professional development opportunities happening right now. There's not very many conferences. Guess what? Many of us are going to have 2020 what? Like nothing on our Vitas, okay? So, hey, why not add an APPQMR certificate or an IYOC certificate, right? A peer reviewer certificate. It's a great time to kind of add those things to dossiers or certificates. We're still going to be evaluated, right? We still have to show that we've done something in 2020. Any ideas for dealing with anti-QM champion instructor who's vocal about not liking QM and thinking it was worthless? I had a couple of those. Matter of fact, I had a couple of those come to my APPQMR because their dean recommended it. And yes, they can be vocal right in the APPQMR. And guess what? We just have to smile, and we have to show them how this works and how it becomes meaningful for their students and makes a difference for their students and them. And sometimes that is giving specific examples of, just saying, hey, you know what? Your course climate survey that all the students complete, that part where it says, did I meet the objectives? Do they even know what the objectives are in your course? Right? You see what I'm saying? Like sometimes you just have to point out those things. And guess what QM Standard 2.1 is all about? Guess what we're going to start on today? So just making those connections for them. There's been times where they've asked afterwards, can I see what this looks like in your course? Can I just, and you know what? Share, let them share. I don't by any means say that I'm a model for anything. I just took QM and ran with it, and mine is certified. You can do it too. That's one thing, bringing it down to them and making it work for them. I will have at least 3 virtual conferences, online teaching and design 4. Yeah. And here's another thing that happened. Some of the faculty, I don't know if Maria is in here right now. I hate to call somebody out. Maria, one of our faculty that's from our university, took APPQMR. She continued on to peer reviewer. She has done peer reviews, internal reviews for our program. She's presenting at her conferences in her field in business on how to use research-based best practices to improve their courses and their programs. How awesome is that too? So that they can start to use this in their own line of work.
Going back to that resistance piece, I think, again, helping them understand this is for the students. It's to create a better experience for the students. You can share the research with them, that's behind all of this. I think Dr. Williams brought up a great point about sharing your own class and kind of, reducing that level of fear or resistance. Hey, here's what it looks like. Isn't this great? And I think, one of the good things about this whole pandemic situation is it has accelerated the timeline moving to online. And a few of us have been out there for years saying, look, this is the future. That population who came right out of high school into college and lives on campus for years has been shrinking for 20 years. Online, adult learners, all these things have been consistently growing. A lot of people don't know that, or they haven't accepted it. I think now they're forced to see that. Online is the future. We're probably all going to be teaching online in the future. Maybe not all our courses, but we will all have that element. And now more than ever, hopefully people understand that. But, Dr. Williams is right. You're not going to win over everyone. That's okay. Take those people who are excited about it and run with it.
So thank you so much. I just realized what time it was, and I think I was supposed to end 5 minutes ago. So really sorry about that. I think there is a closing session. And by the way, I saw Chuck come in and put the link in here. So if you scroll up in the chat bar, there is a closing session link. So please click on that link. Thank you so much for attending, and feel free to email me if you have any questions. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Hey, everybody. I just want to shout out from Ashlyn. We want to thank you as well for coming and joining us. Be sure you go to that. There's a document that they're putting together, the final doc. It has some PowerPoint slides. Be quick to go in there and create a PowerPoint slide about what you learned today. There's some really fun, some fun pictures that are in there that they're going to show for the end. And then the link for the closing session is in the chat box as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Thank you.